Hello. In this video, I'll be showing you how to put together one of these 3D printed moss poles. And this is one that I've already done. And this is actually a this is actually a vanilla orchid, and they like to grow on trees naturally, so they do want to be growing upright, and moss poles are perfect for vanilla orchids. But yeah, I really like this design. It's worked pretty well. There could be a few modifications if you ask me, and I'll show you exactly what those flaws are and how I managed to work around them. But yeah, it's great. And you can add to them as your plant grows, way better than any store-bought ones in my opinion. And I'll show you how I put them together and what I put in them and how I use them. So enjoy. So these are what turned out, and as you can see, there's an ombre effect. You can kind of see it's really subtle, and I've been doing some experiments with that, so I hope to show you how I do that in another video. These are resin printed, and you screw them together like this. And they print really well. I don't put any fills in them. I don't hollow them out since they need to be structurally sound, and they don't take that much to print. And then for the base, I do recommend this one. It has more grippy power on this end. It's not like a little harder to get in the soil, but it stands better in the soil. And it does have a hole, you can see. So when you pour water through this, it goes out the bottom, which is actually a pretty good design because you don't want to oversaturate the soil at the bottom. So points for that. And this is the top. And this one just screws into, and I like the top because sometimes I can just pour water on top of this little nub, and it all kind of cascades down this design, and it'll flow over the moss and everything. And if your moss is already pretty damp, it'll just resaturate the moss. So overall, design is great. I don't know if I printed it wrong, but the one thing I would revise is the way they fit together, because sometimes the threading doesn't want to get together. Doesn't want to stick together. Oh, I got it. So that can be a little tricky. Maybe if there was, see, really tight fit. If there was a better way to connect these without making it so tight, might be good. But yeah, I'll show you how I felt.
So I'm using some sphagnum moss, and I would recommend adding either lukewarm or hot water to it to get it to absorb faster. I find that cold water, it takes a really long time to absorb into the sphagnum moss, but you do want to do this before you stuff it into your moss pole. It gets a better idea of the size it's going to be once it has taken on the water content. And this does have a bit of perlite in it, but you can just use regular sphagnum moss as well. So next I add a little bit of just store-bought potting orchid mix, and this is really good for allowing drainage to go throughout the whole moss pole, so it's not just pooling at the top, it's running down through the pole, saturating all the sphagnum moss. And here you can see where the difficulty with this design can be. The threading can be a bit off, and how I recommend to fix that is just file down the pieces that don't want to fit. I tend to have the most issues with the bottom and the top parts for whatever reason. I guess maybe I printed it wrong or who knows, but a good way to fix that is to sand down the threads or just clip them off or something, and they should fit better. But please remember to wear a mask while doing this because the 3D resin really likes to powder up, or at least the type that I use.
So I managed to get the top and the bottom on after some sanding. I had to sand away some of the threads for the top and the bottom. I guess they're a bit smaller. There was some shrinkage or who knows, but it works now. So I'm gonna start stuffing it.
So lastly, I kind of just push it in there and add more bark into the empty spaces so the moss doesn't fall out, and to add a little bit of stability and drainage. The plan for this was actually to use it to extend my previous moss pole. My orchid is getting taller and he needs a little bit of help. So what I'm doing is just removing the top piece, and then I'll be adding the other two pieces on. And securing the part of the stem of the plant to the actual lattice pattern with a twist tie, and that's that seems to hold it well, and you can remove and replace your stem as needed. My favorite way to water these is with these little squeezy bottles that you see in like cactus kits. I'm sure you can buy them separately, but they're wonderful, and I usually just let it kind of fall down from the top, and then if the sides need some watering, I'll go ahead and put some water on those so they actually soak up the falling water better once they're pre-moistened. And then I'll just keep doing that until the sphagnum moss is saturated.
Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful to you, please leave a like, subscribe. I make lots of resin, crafting, design, plant content, so if you're into that, make sure you click that subscribe button for more videos and keep creating.